August bass fishing can be a challenge, especially if your waters have been getting pounded since early spring. Well, these 4 lures and/or presentations are some of my favorites for dealing with the August doldrums, and most importantly, we will go over why these are great August presentations based on what the bass are behaviorally doing this time of year. First is my favorite searching tool for August bass when there is not a crazy amount of vegetation, and that is the Carolina rig. Why? Because this rig is the perfect combination of covering vast amounts of water while still offering that slower and more subtle lure scooting along the bottom. Bass can really be spread out right now and not in those big groups. But the crazy thing is, by the end of this month, that transition is well underway towards fall behavior, which is when big groups start to form up again. The Carolina rig is perfect for searching and finding both the loners and the piles of bass. The C rig has that big weight drawing the curiosity of the bass, and then the lure behind it really is more of a finesse glide, dip and dive that presents that super easy meal. And like I mentioned, the Carolina rig allows anglers to work an area extremely efficiently and feel what is down there and where that sweet spot is located. Now, as far as lures, there are so many good ones, but I have been on a real kick lately with these magnum-sized creature baits. I want these sluggish summer bass to feel they are getting a really good meal for their effort when digging this off of the bottom. But another excellent lure is a salt-impregnated Elastec version of a soft jerkbait. Unlike the regular plastisol, these lures hold up in the water column much better, so switching between these two is how I normally attack the lake or river with a Carolina rig, and I will have links to everything in this video down below. Now, the next one I also categorize as a searching presentation, but it really is a perfect mix of finesse and power. Well, what is it? The power shot rig. It literally is a drop shot with a heavier weight. That bigger weight allows an angler to get to depth quicker when fishing a little deeper water and keep moving along. And the nice thing about a drop shot rig is when that lure drops in front of a bass and suspends there, the bite percentage is high. It's just too easy of an offering to ignore. Now, the other really great thing you can do with a power shot rig is essentially pitch it to target areas. Let's say you are fishing vegetation that has scattered open hard spots that you can see. Pitching this into those areas with a heavier weight allows not only for you to pitch it a greater distance, but it is also easier to hold that lure right in position for a longer period of time. In fact, lots of anglers even throw this on bait cast equipment when fishing with this focus on very visual targets, and when doing that, a shorter leader makes this presentation much easier. Now, the next two are going to be more of my finesse lures and presentations for specific situations. So, for number 3, I'm going with a Neco rig when I'm in waters with lots of vegetation. Whether you are fishing natural lakes or reservoirs, this time of year, that outside weed line is such a high percentage area. Those bass will sit right on that edge and literally swim up and down the length of it. And because of this, I will either rig up a weedless Neco or a bungee jumper rig, which are essentially the same thing. And I don't like my hook on a Neco exposed for obvious reasons when fishing lots of grass, but this simple rig slides through all kinds of vegetation because the line is not tied directly to the weight at the bottom of the rig. It is extremely efficient and easy to fish. In fact, I have a more detailed video on this weedless setup coming out next week. If you haven't tried it during the hot month of August, it is a winner. Now, the next one you're going to think is too obvious. But the reason I use this one this time of year is to break apart that shade-producing cover. My last August lure presentation is specifically for fishing around shallow, visible cover. The wacky rig, either the weightless or I prefer the 1/16 ounce weighted versions, is tremendous in August. Shady areas, even in the shallows, will hold bass all through the month of August. And while many anglers have beat these spots up, the vast majority of them likely have not picked apart that shallow cover in detail, and that is the key. Multiple casts at multiple angles to multiple parts of the cover. This is what's going to catch those fish that others have missed. Now, making the tough casts will yield results. And if your waters in that August heat are depleted of oxygen, then this shallow and shady cover may be the best spot for those bass to hang out. Good oxygen levels will pull bass shallow, even if we think that water is too hot. And if you happen to be fishing with a partner along this shallow cover, this is a perfect time to make sure you each are doing something a little bit different. The two different colors, weighted versus unweighted wacky rigs. This will help you dial in that tough, shallow August bite much faster. And hey, if you want to watch a video that shows what the wind is doing underwater, how it affects the bass and prey species underwater, make sure that you go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.